Good morning, people. It's now Wednesday morning's devotions. I hope you're in for a fantastic Wednesday. Isn't it the scene behind me beautiful? The fishermen launching, the sun just about to come up. It's very early in the morning here, but it's just beautiful, man. Anyway, we're talking about the mountain of defeat or the valley of defeat, whichever one you want to know. And we've been looking at Ephesians chapter 6, and I really hope that you would take time, maybe every day, just read that passage that I read to you on Monday. I wish we had more time, but I know I don't. So I'm going to ask you to make a point of just reading this beautiful passage, and let's take everything out of it that we can. I used to be a Boy Scout, or probably more a Cub Scout when I was a little guy. And you know, the motto of the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts is always be prepared. And I guess this would be a really good word for us today, because we never know when Satan may come against us. We never know when he may decide that he's going to attack. Sometimes he attacks us at our point of weakness. Sometimes he'll attack and use your greatest strength to become your greatest enemy. But we have to always be prepared. Now in Ephesians 6, that beautiful passage, I get this picture of the Apostle Paul. He's in prison, he's chained up against a wall, and he's got a big Roman century standing over him, watching him and guarding him. He has all the time in the world to think about stuff. And so I get this picture of him looking at this Roman centurion and saying, wow, look at his armor. You know, let's define that armor in a spiritual sense. And he says, look at him, he's got the helmet. That's like the helmet of salvation. You need to protect your mind. He's got the breastplate of righteousness, breastplate to protect the vital organs of his chest. That's like the breastplate of righteousness. We've got to protect that. And then look at him, he's got shoes. Good soldiers know that they need to have decent shoes. Look at his shoes. His shoes are ready for war. He's ready to go to places that ordinarily he may never ever need to go, but may have to go. And so he looks at his armor, and then he looks at his sword, and he said, man, check that sword. That looks vital. And that's an offensive weapon. Man, we have the Word of God, which is the only offensive weapon we have, and prayer along with that. And then he says, man, check his shield. Check this dude's shield. He's got a big shield. That's like the shield of faith that can protect us from the fiery darts of the enemy. And so he looks at the belt of truth around his waist, and he says, man, you don't want to go to war with all your stuff hanging around and flying out in the breeze. You got to button it all together. You got to pull it all together and bring it under submission to the belt of truth. And we look at this and we say, Paul, that's an amazing picture. But here's the big deal for us. We can have that armor stacked up there clean and looking nice. We can know everything about the breastplate of righteousness and the helmet of salvation. You can study it. You can academicalize this whole thing. That's a good word. I don't know if it's a real one, but you can use it. Academicalize this whole thing in our heads. But until you put that armor on, it's of no use to you. That's why the passage says, you put on the armor of God. I can't put your armor on for you. In the story of David and Goliath, David could not use Saul's armor. He tried it, but that was not going to cut it. That was not going to work at all. And so we see how we have to own our armor. We have to take responsibility to put on the armor of God. You can listen about it. You can sing about it. You can pray about it. But until you take responsibility and put these items of armor on you, they're going to mean nothing. And you will remain completely vulnerable to the attack of Satan. So you need to be like a good Boy Scout, and you need to always be prepared for the eventuality that Satan may want to throw at you. Now, we're going to be taking this armor apart, and from tomorrow onwards, we want to do that. But the first thing I want to talk to you about is the belt of truth. You will notice that there are three big ones that are on you permanently. The belt of truth, the breastplate of righteousness, and the feet shod with the gospel of peace. Those are the big three that are always there. The sword of the Spirit you use when you need it. And the shield of faith, you use it when you're coming under attack. When you're not coming under attack, you probably won't need it as much. But the belt of truth is vitally important. Let me tell you why. You don't want to go into war with your paraphernalia all hanging all over you. When you go into battle, the first thing you say is everything wrapped up? Is everything tied up and in its appropriate place? And in a Roman uniform, the belt of truth would have had your sword, would have had your spear, would have had a place for everything that you needed. Your life was in order, and you'd picked up all the trivialities so that they would not get in your way. Now, before we start defining what it's going to mean to go into this war, you may need to do the same thing. Get your life in order, people. Get your relationships as best as you can. If there are issues of forgiveness, tie that up under the belt of truth. If there's issues that you're bearing of unforgiveness and bitterness and anger, you're not going to be able to go into war because that needs to be tied up. Those things are going to get you into a lot of trouble, are going to get in your way, and you're not going to be able to fight a good fight. So, before tomorrow, won't you have a look at your own life and say, what are the things I need to tie up? Maybe it's a relationship issue that I have with somebody. Maybe it's something that I need just to get it tied up, put it together, so that I don't have to tangle up with all the entanglements of the world around me. Maybe there's worrying issues. Maybe there's bad habit issues that you may need to just at least address them and acknowledge them and tuck them in the belt of truth and say, we'll deal with these things, but I'm not going to let them hold me back. Now that's a good word, because remember yesterday we spoke about the defeatist attitude. God can never use you while you have that attitude. Tie that attitude up and say, I'm going to fight well this fight. I'm going to get my life in order, get my relationships intact as best as I can, get my orders sorted out. Then I can put on my armor, and we'll talk about that tomorrow. Have a great day, people. We'll see you tomorrow. Bye now.